Hello, everyone. This is Alex from SBI. I'm here with the Sign Stories interview. Today's guest is Aaron Perry. He's the owner of Graphics Unlimited and New England Carved Signs out of Putnam, Connecticut. Aaron, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to for us to finally do the interview. I know we've been talking for a while. If you're unfamiliar, there is a feature piece on the website and in the January edition of the magazine. You can check that out by searching Graphics Unlimited on signshop.com. And we're going to get to know Aaron a little bit better here and understand his story in signage, his sign story. As he was just explaining to me, you're just coming out of the field right now to do this interview with me.
I did. So I am the owner, and I was just out digging some holes.
Yeah.
Just took the boots off and sat down to do this interview. So yeah, I mean, like we do everything from just doing all the paperwork, the technical setups, the painting, the fabricating, vinyl installation. I mean, you name it, I do it all. I taught my guys how to do it all. They both came from other industries where they weren't involved in the sign industry, but they're good people, and that's, I think, the most important thing to start with.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then training from there. So today, had 5 guys, one making a delivery. We've got one in the office keeping it held down. Another one's been running the printer nonstop. We've got a bus in the back to wrap. And then my other guy was out with me digging holes and pouring concrete. And we're in Northeast Connecticut, so it's 80 degrees in the sun today.
Yeah.
Always a good time to hump a bunch of bags of concrete, roughly 1,200 pounds, I think is what we did today. And of
Wow.
course, it's in a spot where it all has to be mixed by hand. We've got all the machinery and stuff, but it's
That's just how the
sometimes you
cookies
just can't get
crumble
it in there.
sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for a lot of the viewers right now, they can relate to you, especially if they have a small to mid-sized shop where, like you just said, you're doing everything from paperwork through the literal digging of the holes to install the signage. Um, if people are familiar with your story from the magazine, around 5 or 6 years ago is when you decided to kind of level up the business, move to a new location, and things really sort of took off from there. Could you kind of give us the background story starting from maybe a few months prior to the construction of your new facility, and we'll take it from there?
Yeah, it goes a lot longer than a few months. So we actually made a for sale sign that we had to go and install, and we're installing it on this piece of land. We were in the next town over, and we're like, man, this seems like a great spot. This would be wonderful for us. So we ended up just calling the phone number. I'm like, I don't know if you need me to put the sign up. Like, I think I'm
Yeah.
interested in this.
Wow.
And after that, it was years. It wasn't months. I would say from we took a big risk. We had to pay to clear the land and all that stuff without having any guarantees. And it all worked out. We had to come up with the money, basically left ourselves poor, um, and bought the land. And then it took, like I said, probably 3 years until we broke ground. The
Oh, wow.
first two was coming up with plans, ideas, finances. And then from breaking ground, it's probably another year until we were actually in the building, at which point I'm in the room that I'm in now with just my printer. And I had the guys back in my Pomfret location, fabricating and painting. And I was trying to do vinyl here, and that was a nightmare. So we just like shut down for a week, brought
Yeah.
everything in the new store. We had a second location in Massachusetts, in Dudley, Mass. And we ended up closing that one down, which was terrifying for us. But we
Yeah.
had a lot of management issues and all sorts of miscommunication, this and that. So putting everything under one roof for us was huge. The whole thing was a big risk. I don't have that team of guys in fancy suits telling me, yeah, revenue this and X amount will increase that. This was more of
Yeah.
a hold my beer, I'm going for this. I need more space. I knew I was maxed out there. And we had to make something happen, right? I was in an older building with older equipment. It's going to be hard to bring on new people, inspire the new employees, and so on. And how many people want to come into like that old building? It's cluttered and write you $100,000, PO or whatever. So now, and I'm not the greatest salesman. So now having a brand new building, a set
Yeah.
up showroom, there's always a ton of work in progress. I can show them, we have just a professional setup now, and it has paid off huge. It's been a ton of work, but it has absolutely paid off huge. And closing the store in Massachusetts, I still wonder if that's the right thing, but we maintained, at least that now that I know of, 90% of our biggest, repetitive customers. So that's
Okay.
huge. Um, and depending where they're at, we're so close to the highway now that if they're on the right side of town, they're actually closer to this shop. So
Oh, really?
we didn't move too far. We almost put this location that I'm in now, like in the middle of where our two were before.
Okay. Yeah. So, what you're saying probably again resonates because, a lot of people are at that stage where they have a sign shop. The income is steady, but they would like it to grow. They would like to be able to hire more people. And like you're saying, it's obviously scary to take that risk. And so, in terms of your mindset and how you were able to kind of justify that mentally and also, financially, could you give us a peek behind the curtain for someone who might be looking to do the same type of thing?
Um, for me, it's one of those things like I felt it. It felt right. I felt like I had to do it. As I mentioned, I was in a spot where I didn't feel like the customer would have confidence.
Yeah.
When I mean, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't a dump by any means, but I used to spray in a makeshift garden shed, and then I made it into I took the back of a box truck, and that was like my second spray booth. And
Okay, I see.
now I have like a top of the line, it's an AccuDraft semi-down drive, 1 million BTU heater. I'm painting at 90 degrees when it's below freezing outside. Um, so
Yeah.
I would say, if they feel like you're maxed out, and you have more potential, just look for the right thing. It's all, for me, it's all about feel. If I feel I can do it, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
If there's any red flags, listen to those.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of other properties that we looked at. There was plenty of other ideas. Timing for us was big. All this happened right before COVID, before a lot of the property values shot through the roof. The cost of just materials went crazy.
That's a good
So
point.
that was good for us, especially like I said, where we didn't have that math written out on paper. Like, yes, if we move location, we'll have this many more people drive by our shop or whatever the metric you could use to measure. We
Yeah.
just went for it. But it all seemed right, and I knew I needed just one more space. The one location makes it a lot easier to manage. Especially where I'm coming from now, where I'm trying to implement a lot of these business systems, managing stuff and all that. I had none of that before. It's all, and most of it's still up here. So I'm trying to get that on paper, make sure that we have written SOPs. So when we do add new employees, if we decide to,
Yeah.
we can make sure we're adding the right guys and putting them in the right spot and giving them the right work environment. It's nice in here. It's clean. It's
Yeah.
bright. And we have the right tools now. You're not trying to hire a painter and say, "This is my garden shed with a filter on the front of it."
Yeah.
Now this is a top of the line booth that you get to spray in.
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference with hiring and just, man, the way I feel every day. I pull in and I see my building, and as any business owner or even the managers, whatever, you're under a lot of pressure every day. As with the sign industry, everybody wants it now. It takes X amount of time. Like the wedding cake business, it's like you have to be there on time, and you're usually painting it an hour before it goes out the door.
All right, thanks for that insight, Aaron. So in terms of what you are actually, what you hang your hat on, of course, you basically do everything. You can run a CNC machine, painting, installation. You also have this other side of the business, New England Carved Signs, which, operates under one roof from what I understand, but it's polyurethane and HDU sort of carved signage. I think sometimes even wood you guys do.
Yeah, everything. So, we have Graphics Unlimited, which is we'll call it a typical full service sign shop. So, design to install, maintain, and everything in between. Little signs, big signs. We've done 30+ foot pylons, nothing wild, but we've done LED billboards all the way down
Oh,
to,
really?
yeah, there's some cars out in my driveway right now with just some simple door lettering on it. So, I mean, we do pretty much everything. No pens, pencils, or T-shirts. But other than that, if it's
Yeah.
visual communication, we do it.
In terms of advice. You're a young guy, obviously. You're in your 30s, and this was you took a couple major risks here with your business, as you explained, building a new shop from the ground up. Hoping to bring over basically 90% of your customers with you as well. What would you tell someone who is thinking about taking their shop to the next level, but is either doesn't believe in themselves or is a little nervous or doesn't think they have the manpower or the help. Because I know that's been a big thing for you is finding those trustworthy employees. It's a problem for everyone.
Yeah.
But you mentioned prior that you actually it in your mind it doesn't necessarily matter if they're coming from a different industry as long as they're trainable.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously it's a plus if you're hiring a painter and they've used the paint gun before, right? It's huge. But in fact, right now I would consider myself the main painter. My second guy never held a paint gun until 3 or 4 years ago, but he was trained by the best, so it's a shortcut. So he's really good right now, but I would say, you have to have the confidence to go for it.
Yeah.
But you better be a little nervous, otherwise something's wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to have. There's got to be a balance. You have to understand the risk that you're taking for sure. And one of the things too, going back on the question a little bit, is that wholesale. We used to be so terrified that our wholesale customers would find out that we're a regular sign company.
Oh yeah.
At first, I didn't think about this until I was at a meeting, a sign association meeting, and one of the members basically mentioned that, oh, I'm afraid these guys are going to steal my work or something. I was like, oh man, so we have to hide it. So like the front of my building is Graphics Unlimited, and then the side of my building is the wholesale side. So if you go
Yeah.
on the Graphics Unlimited website, you see the front of the building. If you go on the New England Carb Signs website, it's the side of the building where there's the New England Carb Signs. And now we stay so busy. I just don't care. So if you don't
Yeah.
trust us, it's no sweat off my back. Go make it yourself. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
um, so and that one of the more difficult things too, just because it's popped in my mind and you asked me materials. So we do use everything for the typical sign company, and then wholesale. Yeah, a lot of HDU, a fair amount of wood. Just getting expensive. I've still been doing a lot of non-carb stuff because they found out our capabilities. These customers, where we started off wholesale carb signs, and they found out what else we can do, and so they're using us for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of aluminum fabrication, typical sign shop stuff. We do a lot of carved PVC too. That one's pretty nice if you use it in the right applications. But the finish, what we're shooting for back there for the New England carved signs area is second to none. I mean, a lot of people in our industry, we even just had an issue with a potential issue with Matthews Paint. They switched some primer. It wasn't really working out for us. And so I had one of their techs looking into it, and he ended up calling around. He's like, all right, I'm not going to ask you if you're mixing it right anymore. So to have that level of, wow, these guys produce some serious stuff, and some guy in Florida can find out about it, is pretty cool. So we might not be the cheapest guys, but we do try to always maintain the highest quality for the New England carb signs, especially because they're going to other sign guys. It's not, if I throw a little bit of get a little dirt in a sign that's going 20 feet in the air and I'm installing it, who cares, right? If it goes New England carb signs, I got to sand it down and redo it again and make it cheaper because it's wholesale. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so launching the new place is scary. You have to make sure you truly feel that you can do it. And it wasn't easy, man. My entire 20s was working 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
A little bit of bike racing here and there, but mostly just grinding. And what I did have before moving into the big new facility is I didn't have the best spray booth, but I did have, for us, it's the Matthews paint system, but I did have the paint system and I had it dialed. I did have the experience with the fabrication and we had it pretty dialed. I now have better welders and more equipment. But we were professionals before we built the building. We just needed that room to work. I'd have a pylon sign assembled in my back garage. It was two different buildings. Sometimes you're running across a fresh painted sign in the rain trying to get it into the next vinyl stage or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'd have to disassemble a pylon sign to bring in a truck for lettering. No one's paying you to disassemble. So in my eyes, for me, I was confident in my abilities. The team at the time, I was confident in their abilities. So we just needed a bigger area to work. And I almost looked at it as like, okay, we're going to save so much time that I think that time alone is going to pay the mortgage. That time we're not moving vehicles in and out, which we're doing now because I have so much stuff in the back. The time of setting up those jobs and having to disassemble what's not part of your quoted project. So for me, it was almost like, all right, this is going to cost us X. And we could either hire another guy where we're going to be stepping on each other's shoes. Projects are, tools are going to be getting misplaced and whatnot. Or we could go with I'm in a much higher visibility area too. Um, Also, it took me 3 years to put my roadside sign up because they're expensive and it's a lot of
Yeah.
work. I put my roadside sign up. It's about a 20-foot tall pylon. I'm on a really busy road. A few hundred cars have passed since we've started talking. I want to
Wow.
say we, just by putting the sign up, now it could be my presence here too, but just putting that sign up, tell this to your customers, everybody. I think we started off the first year, increased our sales almost 200,000 from a sign.
Wow.
Probably cost me
Unbelievable.
20 grand to build, but
Yeah.
man, they're important, and it's your first image. So my building looks great. I got channel letters and a couple of signs on the building and stuff. But yeah, we put that roadside sign out there, man. It's awesome. I just watch every car go by and it's like, they know I'm here. They know I'm here. They know I'm here.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And,
Yeah.
of course, we could talk for hours about how you built the business up, but we like to keep it nice and kind of consumable here. So we'll wrap up with this question. You just get talking about the time element of things. Time is money, as everybody knows. But in terms of your actual work weeks, like you were saying, before you kind of got into this groove with the new facility and everything, you were pulling some pretty crazy hours per week. And I'm sure everyone would like to know, is that still the case with the new facility and with your operations kind of dialed in a little better? Or have you been able to kind of get some of your free time back?
So the answer is yes and no to both. So where I'm at right now is at least 50 hours a week, most weeks. Hopefully taking actually this Friday off and maybe some vacations. Last year I took almost none. But that's not the major point here. So coming up to this, and I knew I wanted the building. Like I said, it was a multi-year process, and 70 hours a week, man, because I had no idea if I can afford this. Then when I got here, 70 hours a week, because I still don't know if I can afford this, right? So we're just grinding. It's crazy. Hired some really good guys. With the new place, makes us a lot more efficient. I was able to cut my time down to that 40, 50 hours a week. I also had a couple of kids now. I want to spend a lot of time with them. You don't really want to be pushing past, that 50 hours a week. Don't want to be
Yeah.
here on the weekends anymore either. Before it was 7 days a week. And like I said, I just didn't know if I could afford the place. So I needed to make sure I could stay here.
Yeah.
So last year got so out of hand that I ended up going back to 70 hours a week. And it was just to simply meet customer demand. We have a lot of repeat customers, and
Yeah.
I don't intend to ever let them down. So
It's a good
that it
problem.
wasn't about
Good
making
problem.
money. Yeah, it certainly is. Oh, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like this is the way you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
It's the better of the problems to have. So now I just got to figure out how to tone it back down. But I want to maintain this level of work, so that I know that I can stay here, keep my clients happy, earn new clients. But yeah, it just became out of control. But I think it was the projects. We got hit with a lot of big projects plus our normal stuff. So it was tough to keep up with. The team did great hanging on with me.
Yeah.
Nobody quit. Everybody worked late with me last year too.
That's good. That's a
Those
victory.
guys are amazing. You got to have a good team. You got to
Yeah.
have a good team. So important. And so this summer, I see it's getting back to that point, but I already went and pre-scheduled my vacations, time with the
Yeah.
kids.
You got to take them now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not something I want to do. We just did it just because, we got a lot of the big projects this summer. It's been pretty good. We still have a lot of stuff, not as crazy
Yeah.
as last year, and we'd like to keep it like that. The guys don't really enjoy. They have all got kids too. They
Yeah.
don't want to be
Exactly.
here for 14, 16 hours a day with me either.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, congrats on the kids. I mean, maybe is
Thanks,
the
man. Yeah.
long-term goal, maybe one of them takes over the shop someday. You never know.
Well, I didn't start this business. This business was started by my father.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
It
and
is the
so now,
sign industry in general is usually a family business,
yeah,
typically.
and it's really cool too. So yeah, I'm 36 years old. I hope that I don't look like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people tell me I look young and like, I can't believe you remember all this stuff. I'm like, well, like my dad started this business with a paintbrush and a chisel.
Yeah.
And I can't draw, I can't spell. I am
Yeah.
not an artist. So now that we have computers, paint guns, welders, CNC machines, um, now I can do this,
Yeah. Well, that's
So
great.
just learning that. And the biggest thing is, anyone who's been around for that 25 plus years, the changes in our industry is huge.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for me, it was kind of nice where I grew up in this. Before printers could cut out the things that they printed, we're cutting them with an X-Acto knife by hand or cutting out a template on the CNC. There were so many weird things. And just making sure that you stay up to date with the industry, keep new technology coming in, and producing things the proper way. Like I said, we always focus on quality. So making sure we're using the best paints, the best films, the best practices in fabrication or applying those films, whether we're doing a wrap or even just a simple decal. Is the time. I'm sorry, I'm looking over here. I know you can't see, but there's a whole wall of media, and there's like one thing for intermediate for those random. I need something this afternoon. Can you print me some crap? But staying focused on the quality and just putting in the effort, finding a good team. I think that's how we got here.
All right.
Well, Aaron, sorry, I just wanted to throw. We do no advertising. Not a single thing. But we have been around for 30 years in a small community known for quality level. We're a small team, but we do the very best we can for customer service. If we're people, we mess stuff up, we make sure you fix it right away, right? And then becoming known as one of the highest quality manufacturers for carved signs, that's huge. So we don't advertise, and I can't even keep up with the workload.
Yeah, exactly. And you got your roadside sign working for you anyway.
Dude, that thing's been incredible. Like, what a case study,
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's funny that, obviously you're a sign shop and you're like, look how incredible the sign works, but it's
yes.
It's just funny to think about.
It really is. The fact that it took me 3 years to actually put it up, I don't know why it took so long. It's just because we were busy, and the move and getting everything set up was its own challenge to keep up with work, keep enough money coming in to keep the lights on here, pay the mortgage. That's way higher than it was. It took a few years, but man, they certainly are worth their investment.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for the insight. Once again, for everyone watching, this is Aaron Perry, the owner of Graphics Unlimited and New England Carp Signs in Connecticut. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy.
Thanks, Alex. It was awesome to talk with you.
Of course. And, I'll stay in touch. Maybe we can do another video down the line. And once again, for everybody watching, thanks. And you can check out the rest of our YouTube channel to learn more about the sign industry.
Thanks, Alex.